A Vicuña lay crumpled near the edge of a rocky slope. Her long, delicate legs were folded unnaturally beneath her, one twisted at an angle that no living body should hold. Blood had darkened the snow around her flank, already freezing, already fading into the white. Each breath she took was shallow, fragile, barely visible in the cold. She made no sound. That was the most dangerous part. A group of hikers passed several meters away, slowing only briefly. "It's probably already gone," one man said. "They don't survive injuries like that," another replied. "Nothing we can do up here." They continued on, their boots crunching rhythmically against the ice. The Vicuña's chest fluttered once, twice, still alive. The wind shifted, carrying something faint through the cold. Not a cry. Not a call. Just the softest rasp of air moving in and out of the lungs that were fighting altitude, pain, and shock all at once. That sound reached her. Clara Bennett stopped mid-step. She removed her gloves slowly, pressing her hand against her own chest as if to confirm what she had heard. The others kept walking, unaware that she had fallen behind. Then she heard it again. Breath. Clara turned toward the ridge. Her eyes found the shape in the snow immediately. She moved without speaking, boots sinking into powder as she descended carefully toward the animal. The closer she came, the clearer it became. The trembling, the blood, the way the Vicuña's neck strained weakly every time she tried to lift her head and failed. A man behind her called out, "Hey, don't go down there. That slope isn't stable." Clara didn't answer. She crouched several feet away, lowering herself into the snow, keeping her movements slow and non-threatening. The Vicuña's eyes fluttered open, large, dark, glassy, locking onto Clara with pure, exhausted fear. "I hear you," Clara whispered. "I'm here." The Vicuña tried to stand. Her body betrayed her. She collapsed immediately, legs folding, breath tearing from her chest in a sharp, silent gasp. Snow sprayed as she struggled, panic flaring in a body too weak to respond. Someone laughed nervously from above. "It's just scared." Clara's jaw tightened. "She's in shock." The word hung in the air. Alive. The wind picked up suddenly, dragging cold across the ridge. Clouds thickened, muting the sun. The temperature dropped fast, faster than it should have. Clara slid closer on her knees, careful to stay low. She assessed quickly. The leg injury, the bleeding, the shallow breaths. Altitude sickness was already working against the Vicuña. Hypothermia was next. Time was narrowing. Behind her, voices rose. "You can't help it. You'll get hurt. It's nature." Clara finally turned her head. Nature didn't put a wire trap on this mountain. Silence. Partially buried beneath snow near the Vicuña's leg, Clara spotted it, a thin loop of metal, barely visible, biting deep into muscle. An illegal snare, old, rusted, forgotten by whoever had set it, but not forgotten by the animal trapped in it. The Vicuña's breathing hitched. Her head drooped again, exhaustion overwhelming fear. Clara reached slowly into her pack and pulled out an emergency thermal blanket, letting it rustle gently so the sound wouldn't startle her. "I won't touch you yet," Clara murmured. "Just stay with me." She unfolded the blanket and positioned it to block the wind, creating a small pocket of stillness around the Vicuña's body. Almost immediately, the animal's breathing steadied, not stronger, but less frantic. A woman from the hiking group stepped closer. "Are you a vet?" Clara shook her head slightly. "Not today." She pressed her radio. Static crackled, broken and thin. No signal. The nearest ranger station was miles away, downhill, beyond terrain that would be impossible to cross quickly in worsening weather. The Vicuña stirred again, a weak tremor passing through her body. Her breath came out in a faint, trembling sigh, the sound that had stopped Clara in her tracks. Clara leaned closer, lowering her voice even more. I hear you. That matters. The wind roared suddenly, slamming into the ridge with force. Snow lifted violently, reducing visibility to almost nothing. Someone shouted, "A storm's coming!" Clara didn't look up. She placed one gloved hand gently into the snow beside the Vicuña's shoulder, close enough to be felt, not close enough to frighten. The Vicuña's eyes shifted toward the movement. For a brief moment, something changed. The panic dulled. The breathing synced, just slightly, with Clara's own. Clara scanned the snare again. Cutting it without proper stabilization could cause catastrophic bleeding. Leaving it meant the animal wouldn't last another hour. She needed help. She needed equipment. She needed the storm to wait. None of those things were guaranteed. Above them, thunder rolled faintly through the mountains. The Vicuña's breath stuttered again, weaker this time. And Clara knew, with a certainty that settled deep in her bones, that if she walked away, no one else would come. The storm hit without warning. Snow whipped across the ridge in blinding sheets, gusts strong enough to knock a person off balance. Clara tightened her gloves and crouched lower, shielding the Vicuña from the worst of the wind. The animal shivered violently, ears pinned back, eyes wide with panic. Every breath was a struggle, every movement an agony. She was on the edge of survival, and the mountains seemed determined to remind everyone who was in control. From above, voices rose again, uncertain and fearful. The hikers and a few passers-by yelled, warning Clara to retreat. "It's too dangerous. You'll fall. It's just an animal. Let it go." Clara didn't flinch. She had faced worse. Freezing rivers, treacherous cliffs, poachers, stormy savannas, and she had learned that fear could be managed. She had trained for this moment, even if no one else had. Her eyes scanned the snare wrapped tightly around the Vicuña's hind leg. Rusted, cruel, and merciless. Every twitch of the animal tightened the loop, cutting deeper. Blood seeped faster now, soaking the snow and ice. Hypothermia had begun to set in. She had minutes, maybe less. Clara knelt carefully beside the Vicuña, her gloved hands resting just above the wound. "I need you to stay calm," she whispered. "I can help you, but I need you to trust me." The Vicuña flinched, muscles coiling in terror. Her breath hitched in a short panicked burst, visible as vapor in the freezing air. The storm intensified, snowflakes turning into tiny needles against Clara's face, but she refused to look away. Every second counted. Clara reached into her pack, pulling out the small reinforced cutter she always carried. Its metal gleamed faintly in the pale light. She examined the wire, old, brittle, twisted, and planned her approach with the precision of someone who had done this many times before. But she wasn't just cutting a snare. She was cutting a lifeline tethered to death itself. One wrong move could end the Vicuña's life instantly. From above, a hiker shouted again, "Be careful! You don't know what you're doing!" Clara's voice cut through the wind. "I do. Stand back. All of you." For a moment, the crowd froze. Even the hikers understood the gravity. She had authority in the air, not because of her voice alone, but because everyone who had ever heard of her knew she didn't fail. She didn't abandon. She didn't hesitate. Her call sign was spoken quietly in wildlife circles across continents. White Summit. The Vicuña groaned, weak and trembling. Clara's hands moved closer. She pressed gently on the animal's shoulder to steady her, speaking in a low, steady tone. "I've got you. I won't let go." She cut the snare slowly, deliberately. The metal resisted at first, then snapped with a harsh, echoing sound that reverberated across the ridge. The Vicuña screamed, high, piercing, filled with pain and confusion. But Clara was ready. She pressed the wound immediately with a sterile pad, hands steady despite numb fingers and the freezing wind. Minutes stretched into eternity. The Vicuña's body twitched, convulsed, then slowly began to relax. Breaths came in measured bursts. Clara murmured encouragement, rubbing warmth into her fur-covered legs, talking to her as if they had shared years together. "Almost there. You're stronger than this. Just a little longer." From the ridge above, the sound of helicopter blades spun faintly through the storm. Clara looked up briefly. A wildlife emergency team had arrived, responding to her radio call earlier. 2 officers descended cautiously, one carrying an emergency transport crate. The leader, a tall man with frost-lined beard and eyes narrowed from the wind, hesitated. Clara raised her hands, still kneeling beside the Vicuña. "Don't come closer yet. She's scared. She's weak. One wrong move and she'll bolt. Or worse." The officer nodded. Recognition flashed across his face as he saw Clara's badge. White Summit, Senior Alpine Rescue Specialist. "We've heard of you," he said. "We'll follow your lead." Clara instructed them precisely. "I need the blanket here. The stretcher there. Approach slowly, from the side, and keep your voices low. Move as one unit. The animal responds to rhythm, not panic." They executed her orders flawlessly, and the Vicuña, sensing coordinated movement, began to tolerate proximity. Clara spoke softly, guiding her carefully onto the reinforced stretcher, adjusting every movement to prevent jostling her injured leg. The storm continued to batter them, but inside the small circle of humanity, calm prevailed. The animal's breathing gradually stabilized. Clara monitored her vitals, murmuring softly, "You're going to be okay. You've made it through the worst. Now you're going to live." Once secured, the team slowly lifted the Vicuña onto the transport sled, pulling her back toward a safer ledge. The wind howled around them, threatening to topple them from the ridge, but Clara anchored herself against a rock, voice calm, guiding every step. As they reached a sheltered plateau, the Vicuña's eyes opened halfway. She focused on Clara. In that gaze, a silent acknowledgement passed. Trust, gratitude, recognition. Clara knelt beside her, pressing a gloved hand gently against the animal's forehead. The storm raged around them, but in that small pocket of connection, time seemed to halt. One of the hikers, finally stepping forward, whispered, "She's alive. Because of you." Clara didn't answer immediately. She was already scanning the horizon, noting snowdrifts, incoming clouds, and the safest path down. Then she finally spoke, voice low, almost reverent. Because someone refused to walk away. The transport sled began its slow descent under skilled hands, and the Vicuña, stabilized, let out a small sigh. Clara followed behind, monitoring her condition every step, ready to intervene if the slightest trouble arose. Hours later, as the sun dipped behind distant peaks, casting long shadows across the snowy ridges, the Vicuña rested safely inside the wildlife rehabilitation unit. Heat lamps warmed her, bandages held, breathing steady, and for the first time that day, she was no longer fighting for her life alone. Clara stood at the doorway, snow melting on her boots, wind cooling her flushed face. A young ranger approached, eyes wide. We didn't think she'd make it." Clara shook her head slowly. "Most people don't try. Most people walk past. But compassion is louder than fear. You see, strength isn't measured by how high you climb or how far you can carry. It's measured by whether you stay when everyone else walks away." The ranger swallowed, nodding, as the Vicuña lifted her head slightly, ears flicking toward Clara. She lowered herself carefully, letting the animal touch her shoulder gently with her nose, a small, deliberate gesture of trust and gratitude. Clara exhaled slowly, eyes bright with tears that she refused to wipe away. "Take care," she whispered. The mountains belong to you, and now they belong to no one who would let you suffer alone. Outside, the wind died down. Snow settled softly on the ridge. Silence returned. But inside, one life had been saved. And in that small, miraculous act, a mountain, an animal, and a woman proved that courage and compassion could echo louder than fear, louder than doubt, louder than the storm itself. They said the Vicuña was beyond hope. They said no one could help. They were wrong, because someone listened to a faint breath, followed it through ice and wind, and refused to leave a life behind. And sometimes that is enough.